Hello, hello. Welcome for another episode of The Power of Story, where I get the privilege and the honor to be able to interview change agents who are making a difference locally and globally. Hey, it's your host with the most, your main man, Darren M. Palmer, Chief Book Officer with Self-Published in 30 Days. Hey, I got it. I'm excited today. Matter of fact, I am obsessed today. I am obsessed today because I got my main man, Evan C. Stewart, in the building, master strategist. This guy is, I'm just going to let him tell his own story. You know how we do it. For those in the Power Story Nation, we have this gentleman on who's going to guide us about healthy and toxic obsessions and his journey to be able to take us to the next level by what he's went through in his personal life and business to be able to be a thought leader to so many across the world. So welcome to the show, Evan C. Stewart.
Man, thank you so much for having me. I'm so glad we could make this work. I know we've been talking about this for a while. We're in town for something pretty special. We're in town for your event, right?
Yes, sir.
I know we were talking yesterday, and it ends up we're just a few minutes away from each other where we're staying. So really glad to be here. And thank you for having me on and looking forward to sharing some value with your audience.
Awesome, man. I want to get right into it. This won't be a lifetime story. Y'all know how we do it. But, share with us the obsession piece, man.
Yeah.
Take us back. For those who don't know it, Evan's been able to exit out of company for several millions, and he's an humble guy, so you won't just hear him going around and gloating, beating his chest, talking about all the things he's been able to do in business. But take us back and share with us did you have a paper route? Give us the understanding of how did you get in business and how did you evolve into sharing the thing about obsession with with your academy and also with the conference.
For sure, and I appreciate your willingness to go back there because so many people want to talk about the immediate. Yeah. And I have had the opportunity to make a good exit and work through a couple of other businesses, but that's not my identity. I'm still a young man. The vast majority of my life awaits.
Exactly.
And so I respect and appreciate that. So for me, and we'll talk about this, when I'm talking about obsession, just to give a quick definition, because the listener needs to understand what I'm talking about is two different types of obsession. And we're going to go into this tomorrow at your event. But there's a healthy obsession and an unhealthy obsession. And an unhealthy obsession is a linear movement that stems from a need to overcompensate, from a feeling of shame or inadequacy or guilt or abandonment. And that's typically when people hear of obsession. They hear of those that are obsessed. You're sexually obsessed, or you're drug obsessed, or you're obsessed with this person. It probably means you're a serial killer. They hear, and there's such a negative rap. But obsession really is just an all-consuming passion. It's to get caught with a cause, and the cause can be positive or it can be negative. So what I'm talking about when I say obsession is a cycle, and the cycle distinctly is made up of three components. It's an emotion, which is a moment of revelation. It moves into a mindset, which is a stage of preparation, and then it moves into a discipline, which is a moment of cultivation. So it's an emotion, it's a mindset, it's a discipline. It's a moment of revelation, preparation, and cultivation. And it's a cycle. It's this continual cycle of, I have this revelation of something has been brought into my life. Revelation is a derivative of divine truth. So defined in my life, there's a movement, a calling that I need to be obedient to. And then we move into the stage of preparation. So emotion, right? It's E where you get to emote, and then motion as in movement. We move into working your land. And you have this time where you work your land in the season of growth. And the season can be a month, it can be a year, it can be a decade, it can be sometimes intergenerational seasons. But the season exists. And then you have the third step, which is cultivation. And it's funny that we're talking about this now because a couple of months ago, I used to think, as I was diving deeper into this concept, that cultivation was this when life pops, right? And it's all good and you got what you need, but cultivation actually is a singular moment. And like this weekend is a singular moment. It's a breath, and then it reignites a new revelation, and you fall back into the cycle of healthy obsession. So the reason I need to define that is because we're creating this paradigm shift on the viewpoint of obsession. And when a lot of people hear obsession, they don't think that. And I take responsibility for that because it's my responsibility to bring it to those with opportunities like this. So when you talk about obsession and talk about what I've done and where I've gotten, and really first and distinctly, it's not me, it's God's movement in the world through me. I need to very clearly bring recognition to that. But looking back at my life, I've always had that entrepreneurial DNA. And the story that that I really love is all the way back in elementary school, there was this ice cream cart that went around and it would sell, the fudge pops and the drumsticks and the little things like that. But what I noticed is it would go roughly 15 minutes into the 30-minute lunch. So you get all these people that aren't quite ready for ice cream yet. So what would happen is the kids would buy it, it was a quarter or 75 cents or whatever, and then it would sit on the table and melt. It's like, okay. So what I would do is I would have my own cooler, and ice cream cart would leave, and now I'd sell mine for $1 or $1.50. It was more expensive, but it's also fresh. You know what I mean? So
That's it.
That's right.
It's
frozen. It's good to go. It has that nice crunch. Gets your teeth cold. It's ice cream, right? It's good. And I would make a couple of bucks here and there, and it didn't mean anything at the time, but that mindset of looking for opportunity, taking advantage of opportunity, and working in value-add relationships through the people that I cared about has always been a part of me. So I've had, growing up, different businesses. My first real business was a landscaping business. We had bigger lawns in the neighborhood that I grew up, so bought a riding mower, and we used to ride across 3 or 4 or 5, 6 houses all the way back, all the way across, and just knock them out one after another. And then it kind of worked, and some businesses succeeded and some failed. Some failed pretty hard, and had a lot of hard conversations with friends and family, and Brittany, who's now my wife, and God. And then, of course, kind of learned from my mistakes and experiences into what was a very prominent exit in my last business in 2019. And now we're here.
Wow. I mean, just thinking about it, man, for those who are listening, I know you're not here right now, but I'm trying to live right, but I'm going to have to rebuke the enemy right now because I'm thinking about ice cream. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you for making me obsessed about ice cream. I'm not even an ice cream guy, but when you described it, I can see it.
Come on, man.
I can see it
Look,
fresh.
I'm a salesperson now. We can talk about fudge pops all day. We'll run over to the store right there. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, just some of the things that stood out to me was the growth and being willing to fail forward.
Yeah.
So for those who are listening out there that think that entrepreneurship or being business owners or just life period is just a straight shot, the trajectory is all the way up. You just got to look at some of those memes of what you see on what is on Instagram or whatnot.
Right.
That's something that you can count on Instagram or whatnot. So somebody just renting a Porsche or something and giving you an ad, but knowing that it's not all the way up. Evan was able to share with us that there were failures. And more than just failures, there were learning moments and opportunities and ways to get better and not falling off the horse, so to speak, as we say as Texas, but hopping back on, getting back onto the horse or whatnot and moving forward and riding on off. But it's not a such thing as a sunset. Actually, the journey is the sunset. Continue to get better and continue to evolve. So through the things that you've been through for your own personal journey in business and life and with relationships, share with the audience like 3 things that you picked up that are transferable skills that individuals can use in their own personal lives from your own journey.
Well, and that's a great question. A couple of the things that I would say I carry with me now that I've learned the hard way. The first is you must, with vigor and resilience and discipline, protect the things that are important, because you have to be extremely protective of who's actually in your circle. It's like a virus coming in. If you get someone in your business that's not the right fit culturally, they'll infect. You get someone in your life, they'll infect. You get someone financially, they'll infect. It's an infectious relationship. And all relationships are infectious. That's not, again, like obsession. It's not a negative word. It can be positively or negatively infectious. If you go into the relationships of the people you care about and positively impact, you're infecting and affecting them in a positive way. Just like if you go in and you drain everyone dry emotionally, financially, spiritually, relationally, it's going to negatively affect them. And so the first is you must protect. Now, how do you protect? Principles, core values, accountability, and relationships. It's so important. So, of course, we've got business core values, right? But you should also have core values at the home. Core values of what type of identity, metaphorically, would an individual need to have to allow the first step of access into being close into our life. And it might almost sound like, oh, we're creating this false protection or anything, but in reality, it's, would you let someone that you don't know spend an entire day with your children? The answer is like, no, not only no, but like, hell no, I don't think so. It's not going to happen. But The same thing is, why would you let someone that you don't know start to infect your mind, which inadvertently affects the people that you care about? And so when you have those protective mechanisms, I call it insulation. It's layers and layers and layers. Doesn't mean you have to be rude, but there's a difference between, hi, good to see you and let's talk, versus, hey, get close to me. It takes a very, very long time because I'm a relational person. A relational need is something that's important in my life. And so I would go through these seasons of getting close to people too quickly before I really knew who they were. And so be willing to be patient. And if it is a great opportunity, if it's the right person, because a lot of people, they'll say, oh, it's a great opportunity, let's get close and let's get intimate real quick. If it's a great opportunity, as you can probably attest to in going through some of that, because most people have at a certain point, the opportunity won't fail if the person is right. And understand that. So the patience and protection and that insulation. The second thing is, and this is more of a professional response, but a lot of individuals think when they're starting, they must have help. You don't necessarily need partnership. You need time. You need time to figure it out, time to fail, time to fall on your face and learn what you're actually trying to create. Because the business that you started off with is not necessarily the business that you're going to have in a year or 3 years or 5, because maturity looks different. You know, we're about to go through another election cycle. Politics alone will shift the economics and could affect your business. Now, I'm not getting political, but I'm saying there are changes that you can't forecast, where if taxes go up by 50% right now, it's going to shift how you work. Things like that. There are things that you can't forecast, which means your business will shift in alignment with those new environments. So you don't necessarily need a partner. You could have counsel, and you could have advice, and you could have people in your life that are positively bringing in, off of their own experience, mechanisms that you can base decisions off of, but you don't necessarily have to have a partner. And the reason why I say that is some of my biggest mistakes in business early on were partnering, again, watching that intimacy with the wrong people, and it became infectious. And so, number one, protecting, personally speaking. Number two is recognizing that you don't necessarily need that partnership. You just need time and giving yourself the grace and the space to actually have the forgiveness to understand that because you're not who you're used to be doesn't mean that the you that you're supposed to become doesn't exist yet. It's just you're not quite there yet. And then the third, I would say, and again, this is really simple, but you've got to have a series of disciplines that you maintain every day, all day, regardless. So we know we're into 2020 and we've implemented a program into our company-wide called 75 Hard. You work out, you follow a diet, you drink a gallon of water, you read books, a couple of different things that you do. The reason why we did that is because when you recognize that regardless of what happens, you must get the job done every single day. Christmas morning, snowing outside, regardless of what happens, you must get the job done. It starts to build a resiliency of, I have to get the job done. And so many people, they have a if, or a but, I should say, where it's a comma, but. I must get the job done, but what if? I must get the job done, but except. That needs to drop from the vocabulary. When you start to create these uncompromising disciplines where, hey, it's like regardless, unless I'm friggin' stranded and armless and legless is happening, you start to build in that resiliency. And I would start, because that's something that's free. You don't have to have any experience. And it's little. It can be easy, seemingly easy. It's just the obedience that starts to get more tough. It can be easy of, I know that I'm going to, like little things, make my bed in the day. I know that I'm going to reach out to 2 people today. I know that I'm going to read specific books. I know I'm going to stay in a spiritual discipline. I know that whatever it may be, things that are important to you personally, financially, spiritually, relationally, professionally, when you can build disciplines that touch and bring those to where you're attentive to them each and every day, by default, you'll move forward, because the things that you don't pay attention to will eventually fall away, right? You tried telling your wife that you don't love her for 3 years and see how she feels at the end of those 3 years. You know what I'm saying? It's like the things you don't pay proper attention to will fall away, right? You don't check your bank account, I guarantee you it's not going to look healthy in another couple of years. Same principle.
Man, when I'm just thinking about some of the things that you shared with us, to me, it's getting it done. And for our audience, and I'm preaching to the choir here, but at the same time, what Evan is sharing with us is just look at that last part of the 75 Hard and just building that mentality, having the mental fortitude to move forward. I've seen people, they can be talented, they can have more degrees than a thermometer,
I like that one.
So,
that's good.
They have
That's
all these times, but they're always finding that but. They're always finding that if. They're waiting on another certification. They're waiting on something else on the wall instead of just actually sticking to it and getting it done. And so for those who are out there who are listening, please take these gems that Evan is sharing with us and implement and apply it to your life. Mm-hmm. And, far as inspiration, encouraging, you're all the above, like the old school multiple choice test. But share with us who inspires Evan C. Stewart.
I wouldn't, and that's a funny question because the caveat to the question is who, and my answer is a little bit two different sections. I'm not inspired by people because people are people. So I can be inspired by what they do, but let's say, and I am answering your question here, but let's say I say I'm inspired by you. What I'm really saying is that I identify and connect with your giftedness and your impact on the world. So really, I'm not inspired by you as a human. I'm inspired by what God is able to accomplish through your giftedness, which is a fracture of the Holy Spirit in you anyway. I'm inspired by what God is able to accomplish through you and your gift and what that gift leaves as an impact. You happen to be a vessel within that. You see, I believe that if we're inspired by people, well, that automatically leads to essentially some pretty negative outcomes, like, man, Tiger Woods is awesome. Well, about a decade ago, some bad things happened. And now all these people, I remember in school reading leadership books about some of these people that have fallen and going back and you're scratching, you're erasing, when you identify with the giftedness isn't wrapped in the identity of the individual, it's wrapped in the identity of the one that created the gift. And so when you're inspired by an individual who has a gift and connect to that, I connect with those that are living in alignment with their giftedness. And I am inspired by the people that live in alignment with their giftedness because I recognize an impact that a gift can have on the world, which is why I devote so much time to researching those that live in alignment with the gift. So as an example of that, let's say on a really massive level, you've got like Tony Robbins. Well, why is he inspiring? Well, he is inspiring as an individual, so to speak, because the gift that he has is to speak into people, and he's done that on a massive scale, but kept a level of intimacy. That's inspiring because most people lose one or the other when they move out. But it's not him that's inspiring because it could be an amazing man, it could be an amazing woman, it could be an amazing individual doing the same thing. It's the fact that the gift exists and that I can see how it's played out in the world. That's inspiring. He just happens to be the one connected to that right now. That type of thing. And so not to kind of do a long run around a short walk type of answer, but I really like to be clear on that question because when it says who, I'm not inspired by the who, but what specifically is it about the individual that's inspiring, and that's what I connect with. They just happen to be the one that's playing it out.
See, I'm telling you, Evan. As my grandmother would say, bless your heart, child. Bless your heart.
I appreciate that. She must have been Southern because that's a Southern saying right there.
Yeah, that's straight Southern Belle.
That's right. Bless Southern your heart.
And, as far as this, just share with us, too, about your company. Share about the conference. Share about the academy. Because I want more people to be able to participate and learn more than just this interview. So if you don't mind, let's go into that if you don't mind.
Sure. Well, the company, in short, what we do professionally is we help service-based industries that are purpose-driven increase scale, systems efficiency, and profitability. So service-based industries are insurance and real estate and medical and marketing and things where you are the business. That's not super scalable. Like there's one Darren here, that's not super scalable. And so how do you take that and actually position it into something that's scalable and build a real company out of it instead of this trap of self-employment? Like, hey, I'm making a few million, but if I pop out of the company starts to downslide. And so professionally, in short, that's what we do. And we accomplish that through online universities. We accomplish that, or our online platform. We're building out actually current development and apps and some additional products that are proprietary with our systems. We've got masterminds, we've got conferences, we've got group retreats, we've got specialized one-to-one and kind of fitting what the need of the individual or the business actually is. So what we do professionally is that, scale the seemingly unscalable and do it in a really fun and exciting and profitable way. But what we do with the conference is the Obsessed Conference is creating this identity and structure around a giftedness and a calling and a uniqueness. Because the first step, I believe that an individual needs to be inspired, fascinated, and motivated by where they live, where they work, how they live and work, and who they live and work with. And I believe that if you were in fact inspired, fascinated, and motivated, you live a happier, healthier, more fulfilling life. And so I also know that personal development goes out the window when bills come in the door. So you can be the best you all day long, but if you come home to a stack of pink slips, you're not going to be feeling too good about yourself, are you? So it's the conference is broken. We actually have the next 3 years mapped. So this year is the source. So identifying the source of an obsession and how to actually start being obedient and building that long obedience in the same direction, the discipline to your gift, the discipleship to the obedience to that calling. And then next year we have the journey. So what happens when you're in that long obedience? How do you work through the minutia of the day-to-day and not get worn out when it's the same and the same? How do you stay connected to the bigger purpose? And then the year following is the destination. So what happens when things start popping a little bit? All of a sudden you wake up and think, I got some money in the bank. Like things are okay. And how do you not fall out of that cycle and get distracted? How do you stay focused? So we've got the source, the journey, and the destination. And then the fourth year, we're going to bring it back for what I call the return, which is taking back to where it all started and bringing it all back together. Okay, here's how we build that obedience and momentum moving forward.
It's good. It's like Campbell's soup. It's good.
That's right.
Hey, Evan, I'm just thinking about the conference and, how methodical that you just shared about the idea of the conference. I travel quite a bit, conferences all over, big and small, but that's the first time I ever heard somebody that has a conference that thought out. As far as meaning behind. Now, don't get me wrong. They might know of the venue.
Sure.
They might know of the city.
Sure.
They might know if it's an area that they come from.
That's right.
That they're going to talk about that. But that type of strategy, that attention to detail, is something that allows for you to move from ordinary to extraordinary, like you've been able to do. And so, for those in the audience, connect with Evan. And Evan, if you don't mind, give them also handles, website, different information where they can connect with you, man, and how they can take their lives to the next level and be obsessed.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate that. And I'm super active on social. So you can find me at Real Evan Stewart on pretty much all social platforms. So at Real Evan Stewart. And then my websites would be obsessedacademy.com, which is everything we do professionally, and then obsessedconference.com. And by the time this drops, it's a couple of days from where we're actually recording, but by the time this drops, you'll be able to go get yourself an opportunity to be there this year. We actually have a pretty big backlog, so there's a chance we're going to sell out very quickly within the first, probably 30 to 45 days this year of the event. And so if that's something you've connected with, I do encourage you to be there. And that's not a shameless plug. It's really what we're building is important because so many people can go to a professional event, but it's so hard to build a sustainable model around the things that don't fulfill you. And that's really what we're accomplishing here in a tactical way. And I'd love to see some of your audience there and or connect on social. I'm super active and would love to meet some wonderful listeners of your audience.
Awesome. We'll make sure that we have all that information in the show notes by the time it airs. But before we get out of here, Evan, you've been able to accomplish so much. Share with the audience, what is the future of your story?
The future of the story is whatever God needs it to be, man, because I thought I'd still be in real estate a few years ago before I exited my other company, and that shifted real quick. So in short, whatever he needs, I'm obedient to that. But from what we can map right now, the future would be continuing to grow this movement, shifting, creating this paradigm shift of what it means to live inspired and on purpose, and providing that tactical roadmap to self and to profitability that's pretty hard to find in a very saturated industry where everything is kind of fluff and it's very hard to find real tangible things you can grasp and hold on to. And so our goal is to expand our level of influence and our reach, and really at the end of when this whole journey is over, we expect to be a strong foothold on every continent to really start changing the world through this new idea of how your identity can actually be defined and what your giftedness and calling is instead of what your default is because someone thinks that your life needs to be different.
Hey, You just got a little ski taste, just a little taste of Evan C. Stewart today, people. I don't know about you. I'm a part of the program as well. I'm just not shameless plug. I'm going to tell you I wouldn't bring him on if I wasn't using his services, his academy. Mm-hmm. And so those of you who know me know that I believe in investing in myself. I'm looking at other ways to get connected to Evan because, man, the guy is brilliant. I mean, I don't know about you. I don't have to be the smartest person in the room. I'm willing to be humble and learn. So at least call, reach out, click the links or whatnot. Join the academy if you just need to start off there. Mm-hmm. But make sure that you're at the conference this year as well or whatnot in October. So thank you so much, my friend.
Of course, man. Thank you.
Coming on.
Thank you.
I'm grateful for having you. He will be speaking at This Is the Year for Your New Book Conference. Mm-hmm. This will air after that is over with because we're shooting it right now. Plus, we're working on some other things. So I just want to thank all the crew. His whole crew is in the building. So I want to thank all of them for being out and being able to help us do this podcast. Until next time, be blessed and be great.